Hi, everyone. I'm really grateful to be here sharing stage today at Volcano Summit with Ali and Mariano. From our perspective, two of the most talented investors in Latin America in venture capital, and it's great to be here, have you here, guys. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and experience with this amazing audience. So to get started, I will ask you each one of you if you can give a quick intro about yourself and share a little bit more about your background and how you get involved in the venture capital ecosystem. Let's start with you, Ali.
Okay. Ali Jamal. I'm originally from the U.S. I grew up in the Midwest. Did my undergrad and master's at Stanford. Started my career as an investment banker. Did M&A for 3 years. Then worked as a data scientist. Did that for 3 years. And then basically I've spent the last decade doing product and growth for mobile app companies. Spent 5 years in the Valley. And the last 5, I've kind of been all over the world. Spent some time in Asia, and then ended up joining Rappi to lead their performance marketing team. Was based in Bogota, and then got recruited by Clip, moved to Mexico City to lead their growth and performance marketing teams. On the side, I'd been an angel investor for more than a decade, and during the pandemic, ended up having a lot of free time on my hands, and everybody I knew had a lot of free time on their hands. So I just started talking to people and reconnecting, and started a syndicate. So I ended up building a group of people who wanted to make a difference and invest in cool upcoming startups.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. And how about you, Mariano?
Okay. Well, thank you and pleasure to be here. I'm the eldest of 11 siblings, so my family was like a small business from the beginning. I have 4 daughters. I'm a lawyer, or used to be a lawyer. I was a startup lawyer and funds lawyer for 15 years. Then I joined public service in 2013, the government of Mauricio Macri, first running the entrepreneurship direction in Buenos Aires City, which is a very entrepreneurial city. And then when he won the presidential elections, he offered me, and I joined the government as Secretary of State for small businesses and entrepreneurship. I was there for 4 years, amazing experience. We created the fund of funds and many other things. And when we finished the mandate, we created a Newtopia with a bunch of friends, most of them entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, some of them even unicorns, and a big community of LPs, which were mostly successful entrepreneurs and very committed family offices from the region, and some famous sport guy like Ginobili and others. And we started Newtopia 1 year ago. It's a very early stage fund, and then we can expand a little bit about that.
Awesome. And because of your experience and track record, not only as investors, but as operators, a lot of founders gravitate to you to First Check and also to Newtopia. So what do you look for on a startup and a founding team on pre-seed and seed stages? What are the most important things that you look for? Let's go with you, Mariano.
Okay. Well, I think it's a common place to say that we first look at teams. I know that, and it's partly true. But the first thing that we look at is if they are trying to solve a big problem, regional or global one. That's the most important part for us. If there's anything ambitious and big to solve, and if there's a real problem, and not, which is very typical, that you create a solution and then you look for a problem for that. So first of all, that. The second is, of course, the team. And it should be a good balance between technical skills and storytelling skills. Why storytelling? Because you would need, if you want to make something big, you need to raise more money in the future with frequent rounds. And for that, you need to pitch in English probably. But most important, you would need to attract talent. If you don't have the ability to inspire people to join your team and to leave a big tech company to join your team or to leave another startup, then you would be very complicated for you to scale a big company. But of course, that team should be balanced also in the cap table, which is very important. Many conversations from yesterday from the mixer, great projects, but when you make a double a double down on the cap table, usually there were problems. It was not balanced between the founders, so there were no real co-founders, but one founder and the rest are employees with some equity, or sometimes you have like an angel investor, or not a professional angel investor who have a lot of the equity for a first check. It's not an illusion, sorry,
No
for
worries.
a first investment. And that could be a contingency, a problem. So balance cap table between the founders or with the first investors. And of course, the terms of the deal. How's the competitive landscape? And finally, something very important, which is more difficult to make metrics on that, but for us, purpose is very important. It's a long run to make a startup, and if there's no an internal fire or purpose, it would be very difficult for you to prevail. And for us, it's very important. We ask always the same question. Would the world be the same with or without this startup? If it's the same, we don't invest.
And as we say at Invariantes, it's a long-term play with long-term people. So, Ali, with your awesome experience being on different startups around the globe and some of the top-tier startups, and your experience as an operator, what do you see besides what Mariano has already shared from a startup on a pre-seed and seed stage?
I think, one of the biggest things is the founder and the founding team. And like, it's difficult, right? To be a founder is like one of the most difficult things out there. I haven't done it for that reason. I'm a little bit of a wuss and kind of scared. I don't want to put myself out there and spend, the next 10 years, 20 years of my life building one thing. And so one of the things that I look for is, does this person understand what they're signing up for? And are they willing to sacrifice all the things you need to sacrifice in order to build something truly meaningful, right? And having that mission-oriented kind of nature, I think is really important, especially in these early stage founders, and really kind of the ability to execute on these ideas, because the passion is great, but if you can't show that you've done something in the past and you can't show what you're doing right now, it's hard to really see the potential, right? I think the first 2 months, 3 months, 6 months of a startup, in a lot of ways, kind of set the DNA and set the culture, and everything else kind of happens after that. But if you don't have that right, initial start, it's really hard to correct it.
Awesome, and I totally agree with you, Ali. And from the first edition of Volcano Summit back then in 2018, and for now, more than 150 startups have been created in Central America. So a big applause for everyone here, every founder, because it's really inspiring, guys. And one of the most challenging things to do as a founder on a pre-seed stage is, how do I approach to an investor, and how VC or angel syndicate works. So if you can elaborate a little bit around, Mariano, and from Newtopia's perspective as a fund, how a founder can approach you guys and pitch you.
Okay. Well, in fact, Newtopia started with an approach, almost aggressive approach with Sasha, one of my partners. I was still an officer and giving a talk, I don't know where, in a business school, I think. And I was going back to the car. At that moment, I have a chauffeur. I was walking, and when I was almost entering the car, I sense steps, like almost running steps. And I thought, what is happening? Somebody is going to assault me. And it was a guy saying, Mariano, yes, could you talk? And I said, well, I'm leaving. And he said, but please, it's very important. Okay, but I really need to leave. I go in the car with you, and then I come back walking. Are you sure? Yes. So he entered the car, and we talked for a few minutes while I was leaving the business school, and then in fact he returned walking. And so that's I met Sasha, and then a year ago we started the fund. But besides that, I think every channel we have, of course, a website where you can apply, um, and we analyze everything. And in fact, we have cold contacts from LinkedIn, of course, also. But for most of the VCs, it's very important if you have any reference from another investor on what is most valuable for us is from another entrepreneur. That is very important for you. If another entrepreneur refers to you, for us, it's a great recommendation. And then you have to insist, of course. For last year, we analyzed like 1,000 startups. So to invest in 50. In the first year, we invest in 50 startups, which is a lot, but 1,000 is much more than that. So usually you have like a pace, you try to analyze and give feedback to everybody. So patience and sorry in case it was a delay for anybody, but refers from other LPs or somebody, it's very important. Cold emails could work, and cold contact from LinkedIn also, but it's better if you have a reference.
Awesome. And warm intros are a really good shortcut, right?
Yes, absolutely. And most of the VCs, we are very good friends and we work a lot together. So, and that's a good thing, and also a bad thing. If you made something bad, we will know, because there's a network of communication and we will know.
And Ali, being you one of the most active angel investors in Latin America, Ali receives more than 1,000 decks every month. So imagine, time is really limited for you. So with that data approach you have, what advice would you share with the audience or founders that are looking to reach First Check Ventures as a potential investor?
Yeah, I'm not that hard to find, right? Like, I'm open. You can add me on LinkedIn. You can send me a message. Cold stuff works, but if you can get a legitimate warm intro, it's always helpful. It just helps validate it, right? But the first question I'm going to ask whoever sends me the deck or whatever is like, okay, how well do you know this person, and would you invest in them, right? And if their answer is, hey, I don't know this guy, he just emailed me, and since I don't know him, I can't invest in him, it doesn't do you any good, right? Then you might as well just email me cold. So, make sure that the warm intros are actually warm. Otherwise, there's no difference, and it just kind of wasted my friend's time and, wasted your time, right? Like, I'm all about efficiency and trying to make it as efficient as possible. So the, DMs are open if you want to slide in, right? Like, send me your deck. I'm more than happy to take a look. I think one of the things in Latin America culture, you're supposed to kind of go through this process and be, very friendly back and forth. I don't really have time for that, right? Like, don't ask me how my day is, because I don't really know you, and it just ends up wasting another cycle, right? Like my day is fine, right? Like I know it's something that you're trying to be nice and trying to be friendly, but every interaction is just a little bit more time and another step in the process where I can forget or I can lose you, right? Try to make things as efficient as possible. Try to send, a paragraph or 2 paragraphs to tell you why you're reaching out to me, what you think I can help with, and have your deck there, right? Like, if I have to ask you for a deck, again, it's another cycle, it's another step, right? Like, when you think about every startup, you have a funnel, and the more friction you create, the more chances are that people get lost and users get lost. Try to make it as easy, make it dummy proof, so this dummy can actually understand what you're building and how I can be helpful.
Awesome.
Yes. I would like to add to that, which is very important. There is a playbook for warm intros also. So if you are going to ask somebody to make an intro to you, please make the work easy. And there are 2-3 steps and concepts that you should include, so it's easier for the guy. Because it would happen that, if you don't have time to edit the request, then you will send somebody, he's gonna ask, where do you know this guy? And if it's not explained, it's more friction. So be very clear when you ask a warm intro to a friend, to another entrepreneur, to another investor, to include, it's 2 or 3 things, but very clear.
Awesome, fantastic, guys. And let's suppose that I am a founder and I already had the chance to have a warm intro with you, Ali, and with you, Mariano. So things are a little bit more competitive. There are a lot of founders looking for funding. And besides a pitch deck, you as an investors, what are tools or things or documents you will love to have from a founder in order to make your work for analyzing that deal easy? What have you seen? What are the best practices now? Because seed stages have pretty evolved in the last years.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about building the relationship. So, I've made 100+ investments, and maybe one or two have done after one call. So a lot of them have taken 3 months, 6 months, a year, right? So kind of realize that we're going into this to build the relationship, and um, you know, showing that traction, giving me updates, monthly updates or whatever. Hey, we got this new customer. Hey, we're doing this, right? Kind of realize that it's a process, and we're both getting to know each other, right? We joke about it, but investing is one of the longest commitments of your life, right? Like when we come in, it's a 10-year, 20-year commitment, right? A partnership, and so you wouldn't marry somebody after the first date, but you keep them updated with what you're doing, and you share more, and you get to build a relationship and see how we can be helpful to each other.
Fantastic.
Yes. And we analyze everything: how you talk, how you relate to other people, how you talk to your co-founders, the dynamics in the pitch, how you treat other guys, if there's any assistant involved or somebody from the team, how you answer. We are always analyzing. And in fact, if there's any meeting or after office or whatever, having a beer, we are also analyzing you because you are one person. So it's important to have that clear and to be consistent on what you said. And all the founders should be consistent on what they are saying. And in my case, I always like to have a very good analysis of the competitive landscape. I hate when they don't have a good analysis. And it could be many things, because competitive landscapes are very dynamic with some of the value chains now. The guy is starting in B2B and then is going to B2C or other way, or C2B. So I understand that it could be dynamic, but make a good analysis on that. It makes our work easier, and to understand also your vision. Where are you going? What would be your competitive landscape in the future?
And when you say that, and those competitive analyses help us as an investors to have a better perspective about what you are solving. And one important thing we have seen is when you do a competitive analysis, you should consider not only direct competitors, but also alternatives on how people is solving today this problem or this need. And happens a lot to us that a lot of people focus just on the direct competitors, but the most important thing will be how people are challenging that need on these times. And another thing that we see a lot of founders with a lot of struggle is, how do I define the terms of my round and how I approach with evaluation that makes sense to an investor? So what do you think about that, and what advice can you give us, Mariano, from Newtopia's investment thesis?
Well, it's changing times now, so it's like a sort of adjustment. I mean, we are not opportunistic, so we don't want to take advantage of this situation, but it needs to be with some fundamental, and at least you need to be aware that times have changed, so you need to be more flexible. But we don't want to be opportunistic on that. And the advice we always said is, okay, think about the next step. You are going to raise this money at this valuation to do this. Right? What would happen in the next stage? When the next VCs or even us as follow-on will analyze how you have deployed and what you have done with that money. Would that be a problem? So you're buying a problem now because of the valuation or the money? Think of that always when you talk about valuation. Sometimes it's better to be less aggressive, but to be sure that you are going to be able to over deliver. No?
And from your
I thought it was a bat.
and from your side, Ali, what do you think about valuation and also vehicles? Let's say a safe, a convertible note, or a price round. Do you have any preference, or what's the purpose of the safe or the convertible note? If you can share.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think um, the terms is really where you start to understand how sophisticated the entrepreneur is and how much they really understand about their business, right? So I'll get pitched people who say, "Oh, hey, we're raising $10,000 at a $100,000 valuation." And it's like, okay, cool, but I can't do anything there. Like that's not my range, right? Like that's too small. I'll get people who are like, "Oh, we're raising $20 million at a $100 million valuation." Okay, cool. Again, like not my range, right? Like so, understanding, what you actually need and what the investors actually come in and what their tickets look like, I think is extremely important. Um, and then again, right, with the kind of vehicle that you're investing in, right, it's just another kind of signal about how much you actually know about standards, right? So if you don't know, there are people out there, right, who can help, ask your entrepreneurial friends, ask, there's people just have conversations about it, kind of help you if you need it. So make sure you're having those conversations and kind of figure it out, because if you end up making it to a pitch and you give terms that don't make sense, you kind of just wasted both of our times. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Ali, you having invested more than 100 startups in Latin America in really, really early stages. So share with us one of your favorite investments, one that makes you really happy, really proud of, and if you can share how your thought process work on that case.
Yeah. So, your first one is always kind of your baby. So, my first investment through First Check was in a startup called Yummy. They are a super app in Venezuela. I actually found out about them through a LinkedIn post the founder did. And I just ended up reaching out and saying, "Hey, this sounds really interesting. Would love to hear more." I'd previously worked at Rappi, and so I had a good sense of what the model would look like and what the product was. It was a super app in Venezuela of all places. So it was one of those things where most of the venture capitalists in Latin America thought I was crazy when I talked about doing it as my first deal. But they've been able to grow. They're now in 10 different countries in Latin America. They were accepted into Y Combinator and ended up getting funding from Anthos, which is one of the big investors in the US. And so it's just been a crazy journey, and it's been really interesting to see something that nobody thought could exist or could thrive actually become meaningful.
And being first check at Yummy is really something to be proud of. So congrats, Ali. And from your side, Mariano, tell us a cool story from an investment at
Well,
Utopia.
it's difficult. It's like asking which son or daughter you prefer. But now, maybe I could say that there is one here, Kiwi, Mauricio from Kiwi. They are working on food waste. Food waste is, if you are not aware of that, please have a quick read on that. It's almost a sin what is happening with food waste. So I think what they are doing on trying to, they have this system of selling the products from the supermarket that are close to be eliminated, and they have a cashback for that. So I think they're trying to solve a very big problem. It's very with a lot of technology also, and I like that project a lot. But we have many projects. It's difficult. One of the projects that we have been talking a lot these days, it's Nuclea, which is working on the construction sector. They are trying to digitalize that, and the origin is it's also a very big campaign during the pandemics to provide with food to the lowest classes, even where the government were not able. So the founder, which was the CEO of a big company, he made an IPO and he left office to have a sabbatical. So he left the project. 15 days after, the pandemic started. So he was really involved in that. That's how we met Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili was of the first backers, and Cambiaso and many famous people and sport people were involved. It was the biggest campaign ever. Like 50 million food plates were delivered to the poorest people in Argentina. And after that, the CEO has an epiphany, and he decided to do something with the homes of the peoples, which is the thesis of many of our startups. How it's possible that food on construction materials and many other things the prices are much higher for the most poor people than for us. So that's something that it's broken, and we need to improve those value chains. So I like those kind of projects, like Nilus. Yeah.
Awesome. In the last year, more than $15 billion were deployed to startups in Latin America. So that's really something, because it's more than the last 10 years together. So we are really excited about that. And a lot of people is starting with the market crash and everything that's happening worldwide. A lot of people are looking for VC as an asset class to invest and to generate some wealth. And a lot of people want to address, to be an angel investor at a startup. And being an investor in VCs is something really risky. So what will be your advice for newcomer investor or potential angel investors that want to help founders building their projects and achieving their mission? If you can share with the audience, what will be your best advices for new coming angel investors?
Okay, well, this might sound like self-promotion, but I the way I started was I joined an angel syndicate, right? I saw what other people were investing in, and I started writing checks. You got to kind of put your money where your mouth is and actually invest and show that you could do something. The beauty of doing it through a syndicate is you can make investments as low as $1,000 and start to build a portfolio. I think that's probably the best way for people to get started, is actually join, an AngelList or multiple AngelList syndicates, start to see what other people like, what deals are happening. And, you have to really think about getting a portfolio. So, think about doing 5 or 10 investments a year and writing small checks and just seeing what happens.
Awesome. And from your side, Mariano?
Yes, I think it's important. It helps a lot to join a community, some kind of community. That's what we did was that. Basically, there was a lot of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs or angel investors that were doing this on their own, trying to mentor, to give back on to help entrepreneurs and to invest some money. We try to organize them in this community, which is Neotopia. That's why we have many LPs, and most of them are like that. And it's not mandatory, but it helps a lot if you are willing to help or to mentor. And there are many ways to do it. Of course, are very technical, so maybe you don't know about the field, but there are many other things that are human things, like management things, the relation with your partners, how to let go or to fire somebody, for example, how to take tough decisions. Those are things that probably, if you are like a senior C-level or investor, you know about life, many things, and those things helps a lot, especially in the early stages, because the emotional roller coaster is tremendous. So you can help there, and of course make some commercial interests. There are many things you can add value. That's what we like to do, and that's the recommendation I would do to anybody trying to start slow. It's a process. You need to learn to have patience. Don't desperate if one is going bad. It's the riskiest investor, but it's amazing. So it would be great if you can join.
Thank you very much. And well, the final take will be that if you want to get into VC and to be an angel investor, my advice will be to think of diversification. You need to bet on 10, at least 10 startups or 10 projects to invest, get involved. It's part of it. Is being you part of an amazing project, building something cool, living a better world. It's part of the idea of being an angel investor. And we have 1 minute left, so if anyone wants to or anyone has a question for Mariano and Ali, we're happy to answer it. And if not, thank you very much for being here. So. Hey, we have one there.
Hey, what's your opinion about travel tech for this moment?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what's your opinion about the world of travel tech right now? Travel tech.
Travel tech, sorry. Travel tech, companies around travel tech.
Well, in my case, I like a lot all the projections about the post-pandemic world that people were not going to travel or to meet were wrong. So people are trying more than ever and trying to meet, so social life is back. But there are many things to innovate. One of my partners, Juan Pablo Lafos, that he was the founder of Almundo, he sold the company, now he's having a new company called TravelX. They are working on blockchain for airplane tickets. It's an NFT that you can transfer that, which is an incredible problem, very illiquid, the ticket. But that's one example. There are many, many other things working. So I think it's one of the most important sectors to have a look, and there's so much to do there. So I like it.
Well, go Ali.
Yeah, I'm excited. I used to work in the travel industry. And so it's definitely an area that's exciting. I think, again, it's going to kind of come down to what are you doing and how are you positioning yourselves. But I think we're seeing more and more people start to travel again and get excited by it. And we're seeing a lot of big disruptions in the space. So I think it's a really exciting time.
Thank you. So, well, a big applause for Mariano and Ali. Thank you very much.